Hi Evely, and I will tell you one story of a good viewing. Deep in the uncharted expanses of the cosmic void, where light and time twist into a maddening dance of shadow and silence, the crew of the starship Abyssal Wanderer drifted unknowingly toward an ancient terror. For months, they had sailed past shimmering nebulae and violent cosmic storms, their hearts buoyed by hope and scientific wonder. But as they ventured farther from the familiar, the silence of space began to mutate into an eerie symphony of whispered warnings and spectral murmurs, as if the void itself sought to communicate dire omens. Captain Elara Myles spent long hours before the observation window, watching the endless black canvas studded with indifferent stars. Normally a source of inspiration, the stars now seemed like cold, unblinking eyes, sentinels to a vast, unseen horror. The ship's sensors, once reliable guides through the cosmos, registered inexplicable fluctuations, subtle ripples in the fabric of space-time that defied every law of physics. It was as if a malignant force had infiltrated their instruments, slowly bending reality into shapes that were both mesmerizing and malevolent. The first unsettling sign was a deep, resonant hum that vibrated within the vessel's steel bones. Crew members complained of an oppressive dizziness and a sensation that unseen entities were watching from the dark corners of their minds. In the infirmary, Lieutenant Armand, an experienced navigator, confided that his sleep was haunted by visions of impossible geometries and eldritch symbols pulsing with a life of their own. Though many dismissed these dreams as stress-induced fantasies, the pervasive sense of impending doom was undeniable. Days bled into weeks. Navigation coordinates scrambled inexplicably, forcing the crew into perilous manual control over the ship as gravitational distortions toyed with their instruments. Unexplained shadows danced along the periphery of vision, vanishing whenever one dared to look directly. In what had once been a sanctuary of cosmic wonder, the main observation deck, the windows now framed a scene of desolation, an expanse where silent, shifting entities lurked, their forms defying the bounds of human understanding. It was as though the cosmos were secretly inhabited by ancient, nameless beings whose inscrutable designs portended only despair. The turning point came on a day that began like any other. The Abyssal Wanderer encountered a colossal nebula, its swirling tendrils of gas and plasma coalescing into grotesque, anguished shapes. The nebula pulsed rhythmically, reminiscent of a monstrous heart beating in the depths of oblivion. And within its depths, the crew caught fleeting images of horror. A face contorted in perpetual agony, limbs warped into unnatural angles, eyes burning with a feral, predatory light. These images, seen only in fleeting, static-like bursts, left an indelible mark on the psyche of every onlooker. Then, without warning, a violent tremor shook the vessel. The ship's hull groaned as if caught in the clutches of an unseen colossus. Red warning lights flared to life amid the cacophony of blaring alarms. Racing to the bridge, Captain Myles found her crew in a state of frenetic chaos. Over the intercom, a distorted message broke through the turmoil, a voice both ancient and disturbingly familiar in toning. The void awakens, and all who dwell in its shadow shall perish. Those words, echoing through the corridors, ignited a terror so profound that even the most stalwart souls began to tremble. In the midst of the disarray, it became chillingly clear. The cosmic void was no passive emptiness. It was a living, sentient force, ancient, malevolent, and hungry. As reality itself seemed to unravel, crew members reported inexplicable phenomena. A spectral figure drifting silently down a corridor, mirrors reflecting not their own faces but ghastly visages of decay, and persistent, disembodied whispers recounting forgotten sins and cosmic retribution. The boundaries between the waking world and nightmares had dissolved. Desperation drove Captain Myles to order a reconnaissance mission. A small team, led by the enigmatic Dr. Lysander, boarded an escape pod engineered for swift, isolated exploration. The pod detached from the main vessel, its engines sputtering under the strain of overwhelming gravitational anomalies. As it edged closer to the malignant nebula, sensors began to register a bizarre language of light and sound, a code that resonated with the chaotic pulse of creation. The pod's occupants felt an immediate, paralyzing dread, as if every instinct screamed to retreat. But the pull was irresistible. The pod was ensnared. Inside the escape pod, the atmosphere was thick with despair. Through the reinforced viewport, the team beheld the nebula's true horror. A vast, otherworldly structure emerging from its core. Its surface, etched with intricate carvings depicting cosmic agony and eternal torment, exuded a sorrowful menace. Dr. Lysander's eyes widened as he recognized symbols from a forbidden lexicon, a language of curses intertwined with the very essence of space. Before they could process the implications, the pod shuddered violently. Unseen forces hurled them against their restraints, and in that chaos, a viewfinder revealed silhouettes shifting within the nebula of figures with amorphous forms and too many luminous eyes, guardians of an eldritch domain. Back aboard the Abyssal Wanderer, panic escalated as garbled transmissions from the escape pod reached the bridge. The frantic voices described horrors that defied explanation, a realm where physics collapsed and the fabric of sanity tore apart. In the dim red glow of emergency lights, a grim realization took hold. The cosmos had awoken in ancient terror, and nothing would ever be the same again. In the corridors of the ship, shadows deepened and the air grew unbearably still. Crew members spoke in hushed, trembling tones of ghostly apparitions and disembodied laments echoing through empty halls. Every surface, every whisper of static on the communication lines served as a reminder that the void was alive, a vast, unfeeling force poised to reclaim all that dared to exist in its domain. Captain Myles, her resolve steeled yet her heart heavy with dread, prepared to confront the darkness herself. Clad in an advanced shielding suit and driven by equal parts duty and despair, she resolved to pilot a solitary craft toward the nebula's malignant heart. With the Abyssal Wanderer trembling behind her and the voices of her crew echoing like distant, mournful chants, she launched into the void, an uncertain voyage into a terror that promised to unmake everything she once knew. Captain Elara Myles piloted her solitary craft into the pulsating maw of the malignant nebula, every fiber of her being screaming in defiance and dread. The moment she crossed the threshold, the familiar fabric of space shattered like fragile glass. The swirling nebula revealed a realm where light was consumed by shadow and time was a twisted mockery of itself. Her craft's sensors, already battered by the cosmic anomalies, began to register phenomena that defied comprehension, a spectral interplay of color and sound, as if the void was reciting a forbidden litany meant only for ancient, doomed gods. Within the cockpit, Captain Myles' vision blurred with the remnants of sleep and fevered dreams. Flickering images of deformed faces and writhing tentacles surfaced, overlaying the starry panorama. The boundaries between reality and hallucination disintegrated. Every instinct warned her that the cosmic terror was not merely an external force, it was infiltrating her mind, clawing at the edges of sanity. In the oppressive darkness beyond her viewport, she glimpsed an impossible structure, an immense, cyclopean edifice carved from starlight and despair, its monolithic walls inscribed with shifting symbols that pulsed with malignant energy. Suddenly, a violent convulsion rocked the tiny vessel. The craft's hull shuddered as though besieged by the hands of unseen titans. Alarms wailed in discordant symphony, each tone a harbinger of impending doom. In that chaos, the very notion of direction lost meaning. Captain Myles fought to steady the controls, yet the gravitational distortions mocked her every attempt. The escape pod, meant to be her sanctuary, now felt like a coffin drifting toward a monstrous destiny. Outside, the nebula's heart throbbed like a diseased, cosmic heart. Out of the swirling mass emerged entities, spectral forms that slithered and morphed with every passing moment. They drifted with a graceful yet ominous inevitability, their countless eyes reflecting a sorrow that spanned eons. One creature, in particular, loomed large, a vast, amorphous mass adorned with tendrils of luminous darkness. It radiated an aura of despair so potent that even the void seemed to shrink away from its malevolence. Its presence sent shockwaves through the fabric of the craft, distorting the air and splintering her thoughts into fragments of pure terror. As the vessel plunged deeper, time itself unraveled. Moments stretched into eternities, and the relentless tick of a clock was replaced by an echoing drone, a sound that reverberated through the cosmos like the lament of lost souls. Visions of the past, present, and an unfathomable future cascaded before Captain Myles' eyes. She saw the doomed faces of her crew, each one a silent testament to the price of cosmic curiosity. Their voices, whispered confessions of regret and sorrow, merged into a cacophony of despair, urging her to turn back. Yet, the ship's course was inexorably drawn forward as if the void itself demanded a sacrificial witness. In the midst of the turmoil, a hidden chamber within the nebula revealed itself like a malignant blossom unfurling in slow motion. Inside, the ancient edifice towered, its interior a labyrinth of corridors and chambers that defied Euclidean geometry. Captain Myles' craft was inexorably pulled toward this chamber, and she felt the crushing weight of inevitability settle upon her soul. With trembling determination, she initiated a manual override, attempting to divert the vessel from its grim trajectory. But the cosmic currents were far stronger than any human will. Her craft was caught in a vortex of eldritch energy, spiraling downward into an abyss where even hope was swallowed whole. Within the pulsating corridors of the cosmic edifice, a revelation of unimaginable horror awaited. The structure, it seemed, was not a creation of matter or mind, but rather the physical manifestation of the void's ancient malice. A prison for the remnants of a primordial force that had existed before stars were born. The very walls whispered of sacrifices and despair, recounting the endless cycle of cosmic decay and rebirth. As Captain Myles struggled to maintain control, her vessel's instruments registered a series of cryptic patterns, mathematical impossibilities that hinted at a design so vast and terrible that to understand it was to court madness. A sudden, violent surge of energy burst from the heart of the edifice. In that moment, the boundary between the living and the inanimate dissolved. Figures began to materialize from the swirling mists, ghastly apparitions of former crew members, their bodies twisted into surreal parodies of life. Their eyes, vacant and mournful, stared through her as if to say that no escape was possible. One apparition, with lips cracked in a silent scream, reached out a spectral hand toward the cockpit. The sensation was overwhelming. A cold, numbing touch that seeped into her very marrow, dragging her toward an abyss of endless torment. As the vision faded, the haunting truth became clear. The cosmic void was not simply a dark expanse of emptiness but a sentient, insatiable hunger that fed on the essence of all existence. Every event, every terror encountered thus far, had been a prelude to this final revelation. The void had woven its presence into every corner of the universe, and now it was coming to claim its due. In a last act of defiance, Captain Myles clutched the controls and summoned every reserve of courage. With a desperate prayer whispered into the cold void, she initiated the ship's self-destruct sequence, an explosive gambit to deny the ancient horror a foothold in the material realm. In the moments that followed, the edifice shuddered, and the very fabric of space trembled with the promise of oblivion. As her craft spiraled into the heart of the cosmic nightmare, time and sanity fractured, leaving behind only the echo of a lone soul defying the inexorable pull of the void. In the final heartbeat of existence, as the brilliant flash of annihilation eclipsed all, the cosmos fell silent. A silence so complete that even the stars seemed to weep for the lost souls swallowed by the infinite, unspeakable darkness. Thank you very much and see you all in the next video.